You may have noticed by the title of this video that I had some difficulties coming up with what I should call this. You know, as social media content creators, that is often a difficult obstacle. That's why I aptly named my children 1, 2, and 3. Not kidding. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we are giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey, my name is Mr. X. Thanks for diving into this video, especially with the lack of context I was able to come up with in the title. As filming this, I still don't know what it's going to be, but I know it's not going to be good. Kind of like when I'm getting undressed with a woman. This is the 4th episode in a series we've been doing lately. The first one I did right here was about X-Men statues. So if you're new to the channel, we're all about extreme collectibles, and what I've been doing is looking at each character within a certain predetermined criteria, for example, X-Men, and then we did Marvel right here. And then the most recent one was DC, and we're trying to find, of all the DC characters, what is the best of this particular character made in statue form. So what's the best Superman? What's the best Batman? Now, just like in real life, hindsight is 20/20, and sometimes after I film and edit these videos, I'm like, damn, I missed that one. I should have done it this way. So very, very similar to real life. But with that being said, this is the 4th installment, and I'm going to pick random pieces. So what does that look like? That looks like Alien and Terminator and subsets of anime. As a reminder, some of these pieces I've seen in person, some I have not, but I acknowledge they're probably the best one out there. And I think some of these will really surprise you because they really surprised me. Now for the next difficult part of being a content creator, how do I just jump into the list? How do I think of a good segue? There you go. On a side note, when those came out, they were the coolest frickin' thing, but now they're kind of old school. Only like mall cops use them pretty much. All right, first one I'm going to start off with. I know not everyone's going to agree with me on this, and that's okay because that's what makes our world great. But it's the Spawn. So Spawn is an amazing character. There's been so many amazing statue forms done of him. And I think I'm lucky enough to have personal ties to the best Spawn piece. This one still blows my mind. I've owned a number of other Spawn pieces, but this Curse of the Spawn is absolutely amazing. He just looks incredibly badass. Now, maybe if I was more of a Spawn follower, I would put a different piece there because this one had such a short storyline, but I still stand by my decision. Next thing I looked at is vampire statues. So originally, I was going to dive into a certain subset. I think Prime One Studios' Vampirella that is coming out has the possibility to win this category, but I think for now, I think ECC's Marcus 1/3 scale is still the best vampire statue ever made, not only because of the dynamic aspect of it, but it's just such an impressive piece in person. I started looking at video game stuff, and it was incredibly difficult because I'm not a gamer, and there are countless video game statues out there, but I wanted to keep it simple. I started looking at the quintessential video games, at least from when I grew up. Mario. So many different Mario statues out there over the years, mostly by First 4 Figures, few custom studios. But I think this recent diorama that I got in is the best Mario statue out there. Incredibly cool. In fact, I'm going to have it replace my First 4 Figure Mario and Bowser. Now, before some of you get excited that you want to buy that, I don't sell it unless it's in a for sale video at the end of the month. So if you want to buy it, the only way to buy it is sub to the channel and hit that bell notification. Turtles. There's been so many amazing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles out there. I know Prime One Studio has made the different movie versions, and I think those were phenomenal. There's been some really cool custom ones. PCS is doing a 1/3 scale version right now. Sideshow made some back in the day. PCS made the 90s animation. But I think PCS's Ronin statue right here, this is one of my favorite statues in my collection. I think this is the best turtle statue ever made. Very, very impressive. And I'm including all the villains on that as well. I think PCS's recently revealed 1/3 scale Shredder might be a contender, but for now, definitely that deluxe Ronin statue. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but that's to keep it interesting for some of you viewers. So I'm going to jump back to horror a little bit, werewolves. I've owned a ton of werewolf statues, and there's a ton more that I've never owned. And I didn't want to be generic when I came to the decision, but I don't think ECC's Lycan can be beat. I loved these creatures in the movies. I thought the movies were mildly entertaining, but I love the actual creatures. I think it's a great representation of werewolves, despite the fact it's not my favorite werewolf movie. Believe it or not, The Howling is my favorite werewolf movie, due to some certain childhood nostalgia, and I even have a statue from it, but I don't believe it's the best werewolf statue out there. I would love to see a statue from Dog Soldiers, or Stephen King's Silver Bullet, two of my other favorite werewolf movies. All right, best loader statue. So, Lord of the Rings, this is an incredibly difficult one because there's so many amazing choices. Life-size bust, dioramas, 1/4 scale, 1/10 scale. Weta's making them, Prime 1 Studio, probably a ton of people I've missed. Queen Studio, Infinity Studio. Incredibly difficult, but seeing it in person, I have to give it to their huge Balrog busts. This is so freaking cool. Now, I still haven't figured out where I'm going to put it.
That's what she said.
But I think it's the best collectible. Although I did see somebody recently take Infinity Studios' half torso of Sauron and put some legs on it. That could be pretty cool as well. Speaking of which, life-size pieces. This one was a tough category because, as you saw, I just looked at some life-size busts. There's a few other life-size busts that are going to win here, but I'm talking about full life-size pieces. Clearly, the winner would be Queen Studios' Hulkbuster. I don't think anybody would argue that. I would love to own that. If I was retiring someday, I would probably open up a huge statue gallery, and that would be the centerpiece for it. My choice, I think, is really going to surprise you. It's one I don't own. I would love to own. I would love, actually, for Queen Studios to do this character and revamp it, because currently Sideshow's done it, and based on pictures, it looks really, really good. But I would love to own Sideshow's life-size endoskeleton. I think this is the coolest life-size piece out there. And keep in mind, I own Han Solo and Carbonite. I have some Queen Studios Iron Man, or Iron Men, because I have more coming. But this is the coolest one. Why haven't you bought it, Mr. X? It just doesn't really go with my collection well. And it costs a shitload of money. Now, while I think that's the best life-size piece out there, I don't think it's the best Terminator piece. And there's a lot of cool options for Terminator pieces. The day I'm filming this, I filmed stuff way in advance. I know Prime 1 Studio is about to tease some Terminator stuff. By the time this launches, they've already teased it. But I think Queen Studios takes the cake with their original T-800 Arnold bust. I own this. Absolutely amazing. One of the coolest busts out there. I think this is the coolest Terminator collectible. And as I said, there are a lot of amazing choices. I wanted to look at Transformers. This was incredibly difficult. How do you narrow down the best statue? Now for me, I'm a Generation 1 Transformers guy. Grew up with it, more than meets the eye. So I love the Generation 1 Transformers. I love XM Studios. I love some of the ones Prime 1 Studio did. I've owned Imaginarium Arts. And I've owned a ton of the Bayformers, the one from the Michael Bay movies, which, for the record, I thought the first Bayformer movie was really good, and then they just got progressively worse as they went on. However, I thought long and hard on this, and I think one of the Bayformers is actually the coolest Transformer statue ever made, and it is their Shockwave. This one is incredibly impressive, and that's probably why it commands such a high price tag in the aftermarket. And it's not just the size, although size matters, but this is my favorite Transformer statue. I think the best one that's been made. However, I think a case could be argued about some of the stuff like XM Studios Optimus Prime, XM Studios Starscream, this one right here. This was really, really good in my opinion. And I'm sure there's going to be a ton more coming out. I think Prime 1 Studio Beast Wars, this piece right here, probably will take the cake once it comes out, in my opinion. I don't know if it was featured in the new Beast Wars movie. I haven't seen that yet. But continuing down, let's look at Predator pieces. This one's not going to be a big mystery to everybody. I think the majority of the community would agree that Prime 1 Studios' new 1/3 scale Jungle Hunter Predator is the best Predator statue. Not only because it has such a great place in our hearts from that original movie, but they just did so many cool things with it. However, I still stand by the fact it's just too fucking big.
That's what she said.
But with that being said, I can't wait to see what they do with the rest of the line. I already have the next two on order. We're going to come back to Alien. Again, we're going to jump around. I want to go to Berserk. So Berserk is absolutely amazing. You know, you have a bunch of different companies from Onry. I think I pronounced that right. Obviously, Prime 1 is kind of the leader. Sume's made some, and there's some other offshoot companies. And this one was almost a tie for me. It wasn't like kind of their biggest ones, like their Skull Knight on horse right here. It wasn't that. But I do think that the original Guts they made is their best Berserk statue for so many different reasons. One, it encompasses the main character. Two, there are so many Easter eggs in this statue about the entire manga. It is absolutely cool. And three, it's just so badass, showing the sheer power of such an awesome character. I also really like their Zod in human form. I think that was a contender as well. But Prime 1, in my opinion, definitely takes the cake when it comes to Berserk pieces. Star Wars. Incredibly difficult on so many levels. What's the best Star Wars collectible out there? You know, there could be some life-size ones. There could be some 1/4 ones. I might be partially biased, but this giant Wampa is definitely near the top, if not at the top, simply because it's never been done before. Such a cool creature, even though it only had 2 minutes of screen time. But I think if you get an original Sideshow Han Solo in Carbonite, that's kind of every man-child's dream to have in his basement or room or cave or whatever you want to call it. To me, that would be the coolest Star Wars collectible. Alien, again, a very difficult one, especially with so many different ones coming out. But I think the winner isn't a new one. I think it's an older one. And this is a little bit different. If you think about Predator, I said one of the many reasons that Predator statue won is because it was from the original movie. This one, I think, is from a movie that isn't loved as much. But I think Prime 1 Studios' Dog Alien is still the best statue out there. I think it's close to some other ones, and I know there's been more and more coming out, but huge fan of this piece even to this day. Probably won't leave the collection for a long, long time. I was looking at anime pieces, and again, kind of like video game pieces, I'm not huge into anime. I have kind of my 10 favorites out there. My top 2 choices are probably based off somewhat of those animes that I love. But my favorite anime pieces, I think some of the best ones out there. Number 1 is Figurama's Attack on Titan. I own this briefly. It was such a cool piece on so many different levels, especially if you like the storyline. Figurama typically knocks it out of the park with their anime pieces. That's what they're known for. Huge fan of this. I also love Sumei's One Punch Man. And again, this is probably more to my ties to the character. This is the one statue that I currently own that's still in a box, other than ones that are being sold off. So this is still in a box. I don't have it displayed, but I'm keeping it because I think it is such an amazing statue on so many different levels. Now you'll notice I didn't pick a DBZ piece because I categorized that separately. Now this one I think is going to bring some controversy. I'm not a DBZ truist, and I'm just basing off stuff I've seen. I know a lot of people are touting, Prime 1's Goku is the best out there. I think it's definitely a very good one. But I think Sumei's original Vegeta that was so highly sought after that I used to own, absolutely amazing. I think this represents the character better than any other ones, just the badassery of the pose. As you guys know, the paint and sculpt is just second to none, some cool light up and sound features. To me, this is still the best Dragon Ball Z statue out there. And I know a lot of Dragon Ball Z people might disagree with me. That's okay. Your mom can make you a sandwich. My mom never cooked for me growing up, so you should feel lucky. So that's it. Just like the last videos where I probably missed a few characters, I probably missed a few categorical characters here as well. Look at those big words Mr. X is using. You can use some big words in the comments below. Throw down any categorical characters I missed, or if you disagree with me, and make sure to be aggressive, because if anyone who disagrees with you, they're wrong and they should be crucified. No, wait, that's the way society thinks. That's not the truth, though. But the truth is, you could win a statue with that comment. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Once again, thank you for tuning in for these series, guys. Go back and check the other ones, and also the girls, the 10 girls watching. But I really appreciate you. I say that all the time. I really mean it. Please hit that like button. It means a lot to me, and I don't have to cry to my mom who wouldn't listen. Anyway, take care of yourself. Talk to you soon.